Wait, what about weird?
Hi, I'm Echo,
And I'm Elena.
and this is our podcast, What About Weird? A podcast about all things weird from cryptids and aliens to strange science and unhinged history. I know that everyone thought they heard enough about fungi from our first episode, Funky Fresh Fungi,
You can
but
never know enough about fungi.
yeah, everyone was wrong. Anyone who thought that, wrong. If you haven't listened to the first episode, I do recommend going back and checking that out before continuing with this episode, just because our first one describes exactly what fungi are, and we played a little fun game called Fungi or Not.
Do we
to
have
help us
another round of that?
understand. No, unfortunately
Dang it.
not. It's hard to come up with like enough things that seem like fungi but are not, and then things that are
You could
fungi
start listing
that
off politicians.
seem like they aren't.
Some of them
So
are, you could describe as decomposers.
I kind of like exhausted all my resources on the first round, but definitely go back and check that out because we talk about like the mycelium network and like get into some definitions and stuff that will just like help out with basic knowledge if you don't already know this stuff. And I'm not going to repeat it in this episode, so if you're lost and you didn't go back and listen to the first episode, it's your fault. But just kidding.
I'm gonna hope I remember everything.
I don't go into any like crazy scientific details, so it really should be fine. It should be a relatively easy to digest episode, whether you go back or not. But it is good base knowledge before we dive into some specific types of fungi for this episode.
Yes, go back and listen to that. It's a very good, well-researched episode.
Okay, so after the Chernobyl reactor 4 exploded in 1986, scientists explored the radioactive wasteland to better their scientific understanding. What they didn't expect to find were walls of black fungus growing across the walls and pools of radioactive water. The fungus wasn't just surviving despite the radioactivity, it was thriving because of it. The fungus even grew up towards the highest levels of gamma radiation.
I'm going to already interrupt because I'm
Okay.
that bitch. But I know I'm a lot more into the UFOs and shit than you are. But do you know about the whole thing with like radiation helping plants grow, like some plants growing more? And so that's how a lot of like UFO researchers have been like, well, there's a high amount of radiation here, and over the last like 30 years, the trees exactly in this spot where this person was supposedly abducted have grown so much, like significantly more than everything else. Like that's what that's making me think of.
Well, that and, you know, if we're going based on some of this, if there's a specific type of like fungus growing in that area where you know like that this only grows in areas of radioactivity, that would be like a really good indicator of that.
Are we going to start doing UFO research with fungi, you and me? The fungi, uh, it'll be UFO, the unknown fungi observers. I don't know.
Let's see.
UFO, unknown fungi observers with, I don't know. I'll workshop it.
We're gonna
Fungi are aliens, though.
it's the unexpected fungi operation to investigate UFOs.
Yes, I like that. Yes, put that on a t-shirt and sell it along with, what was it, Tits that we decided was our ghost hunting group?
What was that
So-
one? The Triangle Investigation?
Triangle
Team or
investigators tracking the supernatural.
The Supernatural, that's what it was.
I still want that on a shirt.
Okay. So this fungus, it wasn't just one type of fungus though. Over the next 2 decades, scientists would go on to discover hundreds of different species of fungi around the Chernobyl disaster site. Some even showed they were actively consuming radioactive graphite particles from the reactor core itself. We've known for many years now that there is a multitude of fungi that can survive high levels of radiation, but these fungi were radiotrophic, meaning they actively seek out and benefit from high levels of radiation. This got the scientists thinking. Maybe this fungi was using
The
the gamma
scientists weren't thinking
radiation.
before?
I mean, they're thinking extra hard now.
There there's like the Jeopardy music playing in their head, and they're drumming their fingers on their head, like cartoon style.
So they started thinking, what if the fungi were using the gamma radiation as an energy source, sort of what plants can do with photosynthesis and sunlight? After initial observations by Ukrainian scientists, Professor Dadachova, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, and colleagues in her lab at Einstein College of Medicine in New York got to work to answer all these questions about these strange strains of fungi.
Say
Two
that
of
10
this
times fast.
and of strange strains.
Quick question. So, you might have said it and I just blipped out because my brain no work. But you said this fungi doesn't grow anywhere else other than exclusively at like Chernobyl or sites of high radiation?
No, that's the thing. This is hundreds of strains of fungi that they actually found at the Chernobyl
Oh,
reactor
okay.
site. And I'm pretty sure all of them do grow in other places, but from what they could find, it was thriving more so at their Chernobyl disaster site, almost as if it was like feeding off of the radiation. And
Okay,
which was
gotcha.
something that they had never really known about because they knew these species of fungi existed, but not up until this point did they realize that, certain types of fungi aren't just existing in radioactive environments, they're actively feeding off of the radiation and are able to use it as an energy source.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, I was confused. I thought these fungi only existed. They discovered new fungi that were doing so much well. I was gonna ask if it was like a lichen situation, if it was half fungi, half plant. So it was using photosynthesizing with you said it was beta or gamma radiation.
Gamma radiation.
Okay.
Yeah, so the
Uh,
really high
I
level radiation.
I know the difference, but can you explain the difference of beta and like the different radiations to people? Because it's just science
Um,
words to the people that listen to this podcast to learn about science but aren't into science.
So, beta particles are basically high energy electrons with a negative charge. So, it's like kind of like a minor amount of radiation. Gamma radiation is basically high energy electromagnetic waves that don't really have a mass or a charge, but for example, like beta particles, they can be stopped by like aluminum foil. Whereas like gamma radiation is capable of like passing completely through a human body, and you have to use materials like lead to shield it, which is why it's such a horrible, dangerous form of radiation. So when like the Chernobyl disaster happened, like that's why we saw so many fatalities with that and people like getting cancer from the radiation and shit and all sorts of horrible stuff because it's no good. So just the fact that stuff could survive in
Fun
the
fact,
vicinity of
radiation,
this.
no good.
Yeah. So just the fact that like scientists were expecting to step foot after the disaster and find no life whatsoever, but the fact that they saw this like hundreds of strains of fungi not just like doing well, but doing the best they've ever done in this highly radioactive environment was probably extremely shocking for them to witness this for the first time and really interesting.
I mean, it's surprising that they're thriving, but it's surprising that they are like there at all. But I know that um, mushrooms and lichens and stuff like that are like what's called pioneer species, which are the species that come in after, say, a wildfire, after a volcano erupts, things get wiped out. When a new landmass comes up from the ocean, gets shoved up by earthquakes. They're the first species that come in and start bringing life to that like barren piece of land again. So I'm not entirely surprised that they're there, but the fact that they're doing any modicum of well and not surviving but barely is so incredibly cool.
now I'm gonna have to pronounce some of the names of this fungi, and I'm gonna fuck it up enormously. So get prepared.
Oh, I totally missed saying I had all the scientific names written down for the turtles that I was talking about in our last episode, and I looked at it, and I was like, there's a C and an H and a Y in there, and other than that, I don't know what the fuck is going on.
You're like, and
That's one of
skipping this word.
I know. It's like both of us are way into science, but somehow neither of us can pronounce the science words. How did this happen?
I'm really bad at the English language. Like both of us
Like
are. It's terrible.
there's certain words that I can say that I understand. Like, and there's when you get into the Latin, I don't understand any of it, and my dyslexia goes haywire. But you give me
Yeah.
words like "ta-ta box," and I know that. That is my favorite scientific term of all time because it's so fun to say. For those of you
Okay.
that don't know, it's the start code to DNA. But it's just fun to say. But
So
go on, butcher stuff. Do it.
they specifically studied two of the species, which is the Exophiala dermatitis, I want to say, and
Dermatitis?
the dermatitis. Literally, I kid you not, there's the word titty right in the middle of this word, okay?
I love when titties are right in the middle of stuff.
Okay, and then there's also Cryptococcus neoformans. That one I can say.
Excuse me?
Cryptococcus neoformans. That's actually very
that-
common scientific name.
Is that what you call someone that's a finance bro? Is that like a slur for like a crypto bro? Cryptococcus?
Hey, we don't
Foreman?
insult the fungi like that.
Good point.
So they found that these two species grew significantly faster when exposed to high levels of radiation versus when they were exposed to only background radiation. So there were even changes to the metabolism of the fungi. It seems this is due mainly to melanin, a pigment found in many eukaryotes that protects against UV radiation. And against eukaryotes are just like things that have a membrane bound organelle. So that's like plants, animals, fungi.
We talked about this in the last fungi episode, I think, but yeah, eukaryotes are basically complex cell life forms. So
Yeah.
not bacteria and shit like that.
Yeah. So melanin is basically this pigment that's found in a whole bunch of eukaryotes, and it specifically protects against UV radiation. I mean, it does other things too that I'll talk a little bit about. But melanin is a high molecular weight polymer that performs a variety of biological functions. So it does stuff such as like hair and skin pigmentation, photoprotection of the skin and eye, and it even does a few neurological functions. And the researchers found that when they mutated the fungi so it didn't have any melanin, which is called an albino mutant, they no longer grew better in a high radiation environment. So the ionizing radiation changes the electrochemical structure of the fungal melanin so it may act as a reducing agent. And reducing agent basically just means that it's able to transfer its electrons. And this energy transfer could mean that the melanin is harnessing ionizing radiation in a similar way to how photosynthetic pigments or chlorophyll use the sunlight to create energy.
Okay, I was just about to ask that if it was acting like chlorophyll.
It's pretty much like the same thing because they're both they're both pigments, but chlorophyll is like this photosynthetic pigment, whereas melanin is this pigment that is able to harness ionizing radiation because it acts as a reducing agent for the transfer of electrons.
Okay, so one is like, give me the energy, we're going to use that. The other is like, keep that energy out of here, usually.
Like through the transfer of electrons is like basically is how the energy is created. So it's like you're still consuming and then using energy that is created through the system. But
because energy cannot be created or destroyed, it can only be transferred and moved.
Yes.
Thank you, high school chemistry. Fuck you for making me cry.
The exact mechanism of how this fungal melanin works is actually unknown. So this is like Professor Dodachova, she is like seeking to answer this question right now. Is so we know exactly how photosynthesis works in plants now, and we have like a whole diagram for it. We don't
I love
know
photosynthesis.
exactly how this fungal melanin works. And so she's like actively working on figuring that out and basically like mapping it out, which is so cool because this could be like something that we see in a textbook later on, and she's like working on solving that answer right now.
So, would it be possible to use this fungi to help clear up some of the radiation?
I am going to get into further uses of this fungi, like future implications, and that is one of the many. Another interesting thing is that if this fungi has access to other nutrients, the mechanism through which it ingests ionizing radiation will not turn on. Only when the fungi is devoid of all other nutrients does it switch on the mechanism so that it's able to absorb radiation and feed off of it. So you basically have to deprive it of all other food sources, and then it like turns on the switch to where it's able to ingest ionizing radiation.
Interesting. That's cool.
So,
It's like the energetic equivalent of like, you know how people are like, if you're blind, all your other senses are heightened or whatever.
yeah, kind of.
Um, that's cool.
Yeah, so this is exactly what happened in Chernobyl. Like the fungi no longer had any sort of vegetation in the area or other life forms to feed off of, so it turned on its ability to gain energy from the highly radioactive setting it found itself in. There has actually been a history of melanization in fungi throughout history. For example, during the Cretaceous period, when there were high levels of cosmic radiation on Earth, multiple fungal fossils were found with evidence of melanin. We even eat a few dark
How do
mushrooms that
you
contain melanin.
how do you find evidence of melanin in um like in fossils?
I would
Because I
assume since
understand.
it's such a large molecule.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask. Because I know you can see like there is a way you can like look at the molecules and stuff in like fossils, and I know people like there is such a thing as like microarchaeology, where you like look at microscopic organisms in like fossils.
Yeah,
Um,
that's exactly what it is. So basically
so it's just
like
that on like a molecular level instead of a
y-
cellular level.
you're basically able to find fossilized organelles where the melanin granules occur.
Gotcha. That's neat.
At least that's how I understand it. It's probably way more in depth than that, but
It's big kids
from what I
science.
understand. Yeah, that's from what I understand how it works. Anytime, like a lot of the times when you get like in a mushroom that gives an umami flavor in Asian dishes, you're actually eating a mushroom that has melanin in it. So it's probably not
Interesting.
devoid of other nutrients. So I'm not going to say it's sucking radioactivity out of your Asian food, but that's a nice thought. um,
Mm.
there
I love
have
mushrooms in Asian food. I know you don't do them, but I love
mm-mm,
them.
gross.
The Asian restaurant that I love going to has this amazing like mushroom udon, and I adore that. And it has those like melanated mushrooms, like the
hmm
woodier mushrooms.
Yeah,
Ugh, so tasty.
those darker mushrooms. Yeah, a lot
Yeah,
of the
they're
time
like
have
little
melanin in them.
rubbery wiggliness, but they're so tasty.
So there have actually been fungi with large amounts of melanin found growing on the outside surfaces of the ISS space station. ISS space station?
There's no
Isn't
atmosphere.
ISS?
In school suspension? International Space Station.
Yeah, but that's why
I
I
got there in
paused because
the
I
end.
said ISS space station, and I was like, wait, ISS
It's like saying
means
ATM
International Space
machine.
Station. Yeah, exactly. So I basically just said International Space Station, space station. Like
The
I love that I
I
paused
Space
it.
Station.
Like immediately after I said it, I was like, wait, that's not right.
Would a mushroom like Old Man of the Woods, where it's sort of like a black and white sort of grunkly, like chocolate chip looking. This
Um,
is gonna be a long episode because I am interrupting every other sentence. That's the problem when
because
you do science questions. Is I'm like a little kid that never got out
Cause
of
like,
the "but
here's
why?
the
But
thing,
why?"
like,
phase.
that's like asking, like, how many, like, animals or humans have melanin. Probably most of them.
Yeah, I mean, do you have freckles? You have melanin. Are
Yeah.
you not albino? You have melanin.
Yes, and I just looked it up. Most fungi produce melanin as a survival mechanism, even if they don't appear to be dark. So,
Okay,
it
that's
yeah.
that's
And I
interesting.
venture that's probably why they were able to find hundreds of strains of these different fungi
Because they
at
just leaned into the
Chernobyl.
melanin production.
Yeah. And so it does raise the question of like, yes, there are specific fungi,
Mushrooms
like
got
these two that
melanoma.
there are these two specific fungi that are specifically radiotrophic, meaning like they are meant for that high radiation environment. That doesn't necessarily mean that a lot of the other mushroom species that have melanin are going to react this way and thrive so much in this environment. Like, I think we're still in this experimental stage right now to where we're recognizing like most mushrooms have melanin, but most mushrooms probably aren't specifically radiotrophic like some of the ones that we're finding here. So, and I can't like
Gotcha.
say
I
that
have a
for
million.
certainty, but all of this is like still actively under scientific investigation. So there's a lot more experimenting that we have to do with like other different types of fungi. So
So,
you mentioned like, yeah, space doesn't have atmosphere. Obviously, the fungi isn't growing on that like the outside of the space station. They're growing on like surfaces within the space station due to like the high
gotcha.
radioactivity and
Okay.
the high moisture content within the
So, like
space
the
station.
inside panels, like you have the
Yeah,
panel that's
exactly.
like,
Like
this is
windows,
the inside wall.
toilets,
This is
like
okay.
they grow like fungus grows all over a whole bunch of stuff at the
Okay. So,
International
not
Space
like the
Station.
proper outside, but like if you have like a thermos cup, it's like that inner wall type situation and like
Yeah.
anything on the inside.
Yeah. So this kind of raised an interesting scientific inquiry. Could these highly melanized fungi help us with space exploration? So,
Yes.
a lot of people know space is highly radioactive due to cosmic radiation and solar storms, meaning the fungi may make a fantastic energy source in such an environment. An
Oh,
article
like
by scientists,
bioenergy,
yeah,
biomass.
an article by scientists at Harvard University proposes that we may transport such fungi to the moon or to Mars, unpack it, add water, and it will grow and become a rapid chemical energy producer. Some studies are looking into the properties of fungal melanin as UV and radiation protection, bioremediation of radioactive waste, and even how it can be used to help cancer patients who are undergoing radiation therapy. Maybe even a melanin infused spacesuit could protect astronauts from the effects of radiation in space. And so these are still questions that we're answering today. And so we realize that, this radiotropic factor, it's we recognize it in these highly melanized mushrooms. And so we are trying to find like the most highly melanized fungi, like the ones we're seeing at Chernobyl. And I think the main one that Professor Dadachova is looking into is the one that is going to help cancer patients undergoing radiation therapy. Is like maybe we can allow them to
Mhm.
have that radiation therapy, but then there's this fungi in the mix somehow that's going to help with the aftermath of that.
Interesting. I wonder if we can specifically, like, first off, take these mushrooms and like you said, use them, or if we could take other more common ones that, like, if we don't know how harmful these specific ones are, take more common ones we know aren't harmful that we already use in medicine in one way or another, and like genetically engineer them or like specially breed them to be more melanistic for this purpose.
Well, exactly, because they were doing those experiments where they mutated the fungi to make it without melanin to see how it would react. So I wonder if they could mutate it to make certain harmless fungi have more melanin, like you were suggesting, and then maybe it would become radiotrophic.
Yeah, I don't know. This is what's so fun about science is you can just be like, well, what if? And then you're like, and then someone is just gonna be like, yeah, what if? I'm gonna fucking do it. Fuck you. That's what I'm spending my research grant on.
It's so cool. And especially when it comes to like, because these are not only just like cool what if questions on like, ooh, cool space stuff, but it's also important questions on, okay, well, what happens when we have another radioactive disaster and there's radioactive waste? Or, what happens like when you go through chemotherapy and you have cancer? Like really, really big questions that this could be a potential answer to. Like, I'm not going to say it's going to solve everything because it's probably not, but
Yeah,
it could
no,
certainly
there's no way to
help.
solve anything or everything. There's no way to solve anything. We're doomed. No, there's no way to solve everything, obviously, but that's the wonder about science is you're always going to be sciencing. Science always gonna be sciencing, you
Science
know?
always going to be science in. Okay,
Stick that on a
now
shirt and sell it.
because there's no way we can top radioactive space fungi. So now
We're ending the episode. Oh,
we're gonna talk about a fungus that nobody fucking likes. Are you ready?
okay. Is it
So
I have no
oh, you want to take a
guesses.
guess? Oh, you have no
I was
guesses. Okay.
I was gonna guess something highly toxic like the destroying angel or um Amanita muscaria, but that some people like because if you eat it and process it right, you can trip balls. So is it like destroying angel or
Um, no, it's a pretty common one that happens to a lot more people than you would realize. So
ringworm?
when you look in the mirror only to witness a terrible acne breakout, you might wonder, is it stress, hormones, my skin is too oily, I didn't drink enough water, or maybe it's caused by bacteria. Well,
Or
those
maybe it's
aren't
the
the
fact
only
that I
things.
snuggled my face into my dog after he dug a hole.
Well, I venture to say that that might be the bacteria option.
Ah,
Well, those aren't the only things that can cause acne. Fungal acne can also happen.
a
Fungal acne
curse
is
from an elderly witch.
Fungal acne is often confused with common acne as both cause pimples. Common acne occurs when hair follicles are blocked by bacteria, oil, and dead skin, whereas fungal acne is an infection of the hair follicles that causes a breakout over a sometimes large area and can also be quite itchy. The fungus that has infected these hair
So
follicles
like
is a type
hives?
of yeast similar to hives, yeah, based like hives that are also pus filled in some spots.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. So the fungus that infects these hair follicles is a type of yeast called Malassezia folliculitis.
That
And
sounds
while
right to me, but I have no fucking clue.
and while anyone can get fungal acne, it's most common in adolescents who tend to have oily skin where yeast can thrive. Fungal acne is more likely to occur if you live in a hot and humid environment, used oil based moisturizer, have a weak immune system, use antibiotics, or have other fungal infections. The reason taking an antibiotic may increase your chance of fungal acne is that antibiotics also kill off your good bacteria, which means an overgrowth of yeast is possible. But where would you even pick up this fungus on your face? Well, the fact of the matter
A
is
dive
that
bar.
it's likely already there. Almost everyone already has this yeast on their skin, but it's only a problem when their hair follicles become damaged or blocked and the yeast can get inside. Your hair
Thank you for
follicles
this.
make
I'm gonna
it
need to like shower for like 4 hours after we record
I
this and
know,
just
don't you
like
love this?
let my OCD go wild and scrub
Oh
my
my
skin
gosh.
until it's
I
red
was
and raw.
I was typing this out during I kid you not, the worst acne breakout I've ever had in my entire fucking life. And I'm out here
Oof.
typing up this fucking episode, like, what's going on with my
You are in a
face?
hot and humid climate.
So I'm like looking up, and I'm like, okay, my skin doesn't itch, but do I have this?
Yeah, you're hitting like the like the WebMD, like, what if it's skin cancer?
Yeah, it's WebMD's telling me I'm dying because I have a bunch of pimples around my face.
Did you
No, it's
sneeze
probably just
wrong?
because
Have you tried brain cancer?
I just don't think I drink enough water and I stress too much and I eat like
Uh,
shit and so my skin's like, fuck you.
yeah, well, stressing in this day and age is impossible to avoid. I keep
Yeah.
trying to help you with the water thing, but you're like, I don't want to drink water because water tastes bad.
Well,
And
I will drink it if it has flavorings, and so I have flavorings for my water, and then I'll drink water. The only problem is like we get 2
you have
breaks
the
at
bladder of
work,
a
right?
chihuahua. An
Yeah.
elderly an elderly chihuahua.
Like we get 2 breaks at work, and I won't ever remember to drink water while I'm on either of those 2 breaks. And so I just won't drink water until I get home from work and it's like fucking 5 p.m. and I'm like, "Oh, I haven't had any water today." And I'll drink like a glass and then go to bed.
Do you need me to start, like, standing in front of you during break until you drink water and then letting you out of the locker room? Like, do
I
you
don't
need me to,
know.
like, strong arm
I
you?
I need to
Like,
remember to like even bring my water bottle to work because sometimes I don't. I just leave it at home and then there's like no chance for me drinking water that day. It's a bad problem and I need a way to remind myself. What I need to do is start wearing my Fitbit again and then I can start having my Fitbit go off when I need to take water breaks.
or you need one of those water bottles that's, like, the encouraging water bottles, except it's, like, super degrading. It's just like, "Drink water, you dehydrated bitch. Have you drunk some water? No? You're a failure. If you drink more water, you won't be a failure."
It's not one of those water bottles. It's like, yay, way to go. It's one of those. It's like, you stupid asshole. How could you have only drank this much?
I got you a fancy new cup for Christmas to help you drink more water. You
And you know
haven't been
what? I
using it.
drink iced coffee out of it. Okay.
Well,
Anyway.
you had one for water, one for coffee. That's what you do. Now you have another cup, so you can spare one for water.
No. Okay. So, your hair
Enough
follicles
tangents.
your hair follicles may get damaged and introduce an infection if you constantly touch your face, which I'm really bad about.
You
If you
just
leave
said
your
that right
skin-
after I scratched my face.
if you leave your skin hot and damp, if you shave, pluck, wax, or wear tight clothing. So, yay, seems like you could get it at any time.
Do
Fungal
you
acne.
do anything to your body? You're fucked. Do you not do anything to your body? You're fucked.
Basically, fungal acne is very often underdiagnosed and often chalked up to be normal acne. So, how would you know if you had fungal acne versus common acne? So, unfortunately, you'd have to go see a doctor who would ask you about your symptoms and how long you've had them, examine your skin, and likely take a sample to look at under a microscope. And then they would determine if you have fungal acne and prescribe you an antifungal medication in the form of a cream, shampoo, or topical solution. So, good luck out there. That's all I have for that one. Good fucking luck.
End of the episode. Bye for now. Thanks for listening. Like and share and give us a rating and fuck you.
But in our first fungi episode, I brought up a parasitic fungi. I wanted to bring up a case where a fungi can be parasitized by something else. So, a mycoheterotroph is a non photosynthetic plant, often lacking chlorophyll for the photosynthesis process, that gains its energy from parasitizing a fungus instead. They capitalize on the often symbiotic relationship between plants and fungi through the mycelium network. Some mycoheterotrophy occurs as a full food source for non photosynthesizing plants, but there are also plants capable of photosynthesis that parasitize fungi as an additional food source, or some plants that only use fungi as a food source during certain portions of their life cycle. And not all non photosynthetic plants parasitize fungi. Some parasitize the vascular systems of other plants.
Are we talking
But
about my favorite flower of all time? The
indeed,
peace pipe
here
flower?
Yes. So here is where the
Yes!
monotropy uniflora comes in, also referred to as the ghost pipe, ghost plant, or Indian pipe in most cases. It is a perennial flowering plant native to Asia, North America, and South America. This plant is often pale with flowers white in
Sometimes
color
they're
that grow
pink
in
and it's
clumps.
sick.
Yeah, like a pale pink. They're really pretty. Yeah, they completely lack chlorophyll. So they are unable to engage in photosynthesis. The ghost pipe feeds off of the, I want to say it's Russulaceae fungi, a diverse family of fungi with over 1,900 species known worldwide, from brittle gills to milk caps. Through the fungal network of the mycorrhizae, the roots of the uniflora sap food from where the host fungi are connected to photosynthetic trees. The clustered node roots of the plants are covered in hairs called cystidium. These hairs easily attach to the fungi hyphae. Since the uniflora isn't dependent on sunlight to grow, it is able to exist in dark environments such as dense forests, but the complex relationship between fungi and this flower that allow it to grow make it incredibly difficult to propagate.
It's so cool because, like, you'll go and be walking through, like, a tight knot of rhododendrons in, like, the middle of the woods, and you'll see, like, a little white spot in the woods, and you're like, "What is that?" And you go up to it, and it's these flowers, and it's just, they're so magical and beautiful and just fascinating. I love them. They're so cool.
I think parasitic organisms are so intriguing regardless. The parasitic plants that parasitize
Parasitic
fungi.
wasps,
Parasitic
those are
wasps are
cool.
fucking crazy.
Parasitic birds,
Oh my gosh. Like that one bird
the
that it's
cowbird,
like, yeah, where it just like puts its fucking egg
and it's
in the
like
nest and has the other
this.
bird raise raise it.
Yeah, and then because its babies are bigger, it just, like, yeets the other eggs and babies out. It's so
It's
cool. It's
it's
so
so
cool.
fucked up though, but it's
It's so
like
fucked up, but it's so fascinating.
it's really fascinating, but then it'll also like make me laugh, which is like so messed up because I'm like, oh, these poor birds, but then also like like the actual mother bird is just like, wait, why the fuck is there this big ass baby? But they don't even question it. They're just like, all right, my large son, here, have some worms.
My large son. How to get a large son. Step 1, feed them worms. If you're over 6 foot, I'm going to assume that you've been fed worms as a child.
Okay, and
Anyways,
you know a little bit about this stuff, but I'm going to get into it because 'tis the season and I want other people to be able to join in on some of the knowledge that we have.
are we now talking about the Amanita muscara?
We are indeed.
Yes.
So, all you cottagecore folks, and basically anyone who has seen a mushroom design on any item, knows of the cute little red mushroom with white spots. It is the quintessential mushroom, but most people don't even know what the mushroom is called. Well, the mushroom that graces clothing lines, kitchenware, folk art, and is even in the Mario games is a psychedelic mushroom called Amanita muscaria, a mushroom used for religious or spiritual traditions for hundreds of years throughout Europe and Asia. The name may be familiar to you as we talked a little bit about it in our Diet Love Pass episode, but the Amanita
Oh, it's
muscaria
so cool.
has.
The stuff there. There's a really cool video of I'd have to find it again. But of, like, these old Russian people processing Amanita muscara in, like, the woods and, like, taking it in different ways and showing how it, like, reacts differently. I think it's like a Vice video or something, but I could be totally wrong. I'm just assuming because Vice does all of that shit. But it's
Mhm.
really cool.
I'll have to look that up.
I'll have to find it. I can ask my partner because he's the one that showed it to me.
Okay. This fungi has cosmopolitan distribution, meaning it is found in every continent except for Antarctica. Though surprisingly, there are many fungi in Antarctica. So if I should do an episode on the fungi of Antarctica, someone should let me know because I would do that. Um, Amanita performs many complex relationships with hardwood and softwood trees, such as birch, pine, and spruce, by enveloping trees' roots with its hyphae, and it brings up nutrients and water from the soil to exchange for sugars the trees make during photosynthesis. The common name for this mushroom is the fly agaric. It gained this name after being used as an insecticide in Europe. The dried caps of the mushroom were crushed up and placed into milk to attract flies. After the flies would consume the liquid, they would become disoriented and easier to kill. The chemicals which lead to this intoxicating effect are ibotenic acid and muscimol. I'm going to pretend like I pronounced those correctly. After ingesting the mushroom, you may have symptoms starting at 30 minutes after ingestion, and then you can even have onset of symptoms 2 hours after ingestion. And you only need to eat about 5 grams worth to experience its effects. And 5 grams equals to about 1 mushroom cap. Symptoms can last for 4 to 10 hours and can include nausea, drowsiness, sweating, vomiting, disoriented sight and sound, euphoria, and convulsions. The toxicity of the mushroom meant it had to be dehydrated before consumption. Even though deaths from consuming this fungi are rare, it has many negative effects, and death is certainly not an implausible concern if a high dose is ingested. However, there are many fungi in the Amanita genus that contain deadly toxins, and the ingestion of those can lead to liver and kidney failure. And I believe one of those is, what was that mushroom you brought up earlier? The super deadly one.
Destroying Angel?
Yeah, I believe that's in the Amanita genus.
I wouldn't be surprised that Destroying Angel is considered one of the most deadly mushrooms because it looks like an edible mushroom in other parts of the world. And so it's often confused with that other one, even though it's highly toxic. And the only reason so many people die from it is that they will move from one part of the world to North America, and then we'll see that and think that it's an edible one, and then we'll proceed to eat it. Also, I think I found the documentary bit, so I'm texting it to you. I'll have to double check later, but I just texted it to you.
Okay, awesome.
And I was right. It is Vice, because of course it was.
But yeah, the Destroying Angel is of that same genus. So like this genus can be known for having some pretty like toxic mushrooms involved. All right, so hallucinogenic mushrooms have been an important part of human history as far back as 1000 BC, with pictographs found in a cave in Algeria from anywhere from 9500 to 7000 BC. They're like, obviously, with archaeology, there can be a large range like that. But that's where it's believed to be from during this period, illustrating dancing humans holding mushrooms. And then dating back to 6000 BC, there were pictographs in eastern Spain that depict mushrooms. And there is
back to the 1960s, there are things of dancing deadheads with mushrooms.
Yep. There is even a part human, part mushroom shaped petroglyph that they believe dates back to nearly 1000 BC in northeastern Russia, with a few words scrawled on it. After analysis of several indigenous languages,
with a few words scrawled on it. Don't take this shit. I saw the gods.
So scientists were able to piece together that the words likely mean ecstasy or intoxication, most likely in reference.
Shit, what are these colors?
Most likely in reference to the Amanita muscaria. Some historical texts suggest that this fungi is responsible for providing the Viking berserker gangs from 900 to 1200 CE with their battle fury. There is also a mural from 1290 in a chapel in France depicting Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden with the snake wrapped around an Amanita muscaria, which fuels a long thought of theory that the roots of Christianity may be tied to the use of hallucinogenic plants. First-hand accounts of the use of this psychedelic mushroom for spiritual purposes occur in the 18th century. While in a Siberian labor camp, Swedish Colonel Johann von Strahlenberg observed it being used among the Koryak people who used it for tea. Those who could not afford the mushrooms themselves would drink the urine of others who had ingested the tea.
Oh, I've heard
And
about this, and there's some. They were talking. The book that I read for Dyatlov Pass talked about this.
yes, yeah, more often than not, they would have the reindeer eat the mushrooms and then they would drink the reindeer pee, and it would kind of filter out some of the toxins while still providing the psychedelic purpose. And
Bear
then
Grylls would be so proud. Or was it Bear Grylls that drank his own piss? Or
I think
there's
it was.
a couple of guys that did that.
I'm pretty sure it was Bear Grylls. I know
Survivalists
that man
do
did
that
that shit. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they've all done that at something. Fun fact: if you get edible, like the legal edibles, depending on what state you're in, at least in like in North Carolina, a lot of the legal mushroom edibles that you see in dispensaries and stuff are Amanita muscaria that have been boiled for so long that a lot of the toxins are out and just some of the psychoactive components are left. It's not like psilocybin.
Yeah. That is wild. Yeah, because it's a legal gray area because it's not like a banned substance here.
Yeah, it's
So,
wild.
yeah.
People love getting around loopholes in North Carolina. It's
Yes, they sure do.
I went down a rabbit hole of how people get around loopholes in the weird ass laws in North Carolina. Yet again, we love weird laws. Anyway, continue.
So, someone at some point made an observation that the psychoactive qualities of the tea that they made from the Amanita muscaria were maintained through 4 to 5 cycles of it being passed through urine. So, like, you could drink the urine and then pass it again, and then drink it and then pass it again, like 4 to 5 times before the effect went away of the mushrooms.
That is wild.
Yeah.
I mean, for spiritual purposes, people do a lot of wild shit. But like, I don't know. I would not drink. I mean, there's people that are drinking piss for less. There's people doing it for the survivalist TV shows, and there's people that are weird biohacker mommy bloggers that are like, I drink piss and put it in my eyes to be healthy. And it's like, you have 12 kinds of conjunctivitis, but okay.
There was that one lady on My Strange Addiction who was like addicted to her own urine, and she would like drink it and use it as like eye drops, and she would like bathe in it and stuff. It was so fucking weird.
Yeah, I've seen that. And then there's like people that there's like a period of time when people were way into that shit of like it being like some weird health trend with the really weird fringe like health nuts.
Yeah. Journals from physicians and journeymen were published all throughout the 1800s about the great care taken to harvest and preserve these mushrooms during the winter time, and then ingest the mushrooms near the solstice. It was noted that shamans within the village would often take the mushroom to seek answers to questions about illness, interpersonal relationships, and to seek knowledge of the future or to visit ancestors. In the legends, it was said that the shamans would basically take the mushrooms and then they were able to turn into animals, such as reindeer, and fly towards the North Star in search of knowledge to share with their people. Shamans would dress up in red and white, the colors of the Amanita muscaria, to harvest the mushroom, and when they would perform their ritual with it during the winter. So an ethnobiologist named Jonathan Ott drew similarities to the practices of ingesting the Amanita and the Christmas traditions we cling to today. He brought up the similarity between the red and white costumes adorned by the shaman and the red and white outfit of Santa Claus. Ott also theorized that the mushrooms were likely hung in stockings of sorts over a hearth or a fireplace to dry them out before consumption.
The video that I had sent you, I don't know if it's in that one. I didn't watch the full thing, but in like and I think that was just a clip of it. But in part of that, they are drying it in like pieces of fabric over a stove and stuff, which is kind of what you're saying, drying it in the stockings. But I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of Christmas traditions that are a lot of different folk and pagan traditions that have just been blended together over the years, and that's part of
Yeah,
the reason why
exactly.
they vary from place to place.
Yeah, because there's Christmas is like I don't know, here in America, like we think it's like one way, but if you go and celebrate Christmas in a different country, it's not gonna be exactly how we celebrate it here.
Yeah, and even from like region to region in America, it's different. Like, and depending on the family, like, weren't you telling me that like when you were a kid, your mom's like, Santa likes goat cheese?
Yeah, exactly. But that
And when
was
I was, yeah, and all kinds of stuff. And like when I was a kid, we always like put some sort of vegetable out for the reindeer, and like Santa looked one way in my family, but then I'd see like depictions of Santa and he'd look like in my family, he always looked a bit more like a lumberjack and like a
uh-huh.
long cap. And then other families, he looked more like the jolly, like Coca-Cola Santa.
Yeah. Coca-Cola Santa is definitely a very recent
Yeah.
fabrication of Santa though. But there is like traditionally like most places do like the red and white outfit for Santa Claus. So
Hmm.
that's where they thought that came from. And then I think it's been a relatively big tradition to do stockings over the fire. And so this parallels with like the drying of the mushrooms out over the fire. And then the entrance to the yurts or the huts where these villagers lived was a smoke hole in the roof, since the main door would often be completely covered in snow. And so when the shamans would descend down into the yurts, they were coming from the highest point in the house, which they think is the reason why Santa Claus comes down through the chimney in a lot of our
Interesting.
Christmas
I
lore
always wondered
today.
that.
Many historians argue that the red and white suit of Santa was not introduced into Christmas mythology until the 19th century, and the entry through the chimney and stockings over the fireplace is attributed with Saint Nicholas, who is, I saw in some sources that he was Greek, I saw in some sources that he was Turkish, but he was a bishop in the 4th century who, through his kind acts, is believed to be the reason we have the myth of Santa Claus. However, Ott isn't the only person who recognizes the similarities between Christmas and the spiritual fungi experience. Professor Carl Rick at Boston University points out that there is written evidence that the reindeer and the shaman would consume the mushroom, and basically there are these legends that the reindeer would pull this sled and they could like fly through the sky in search of answers.
So
Hence
kind
why
of like the whole thing of like witches flying and like the like flying isn't like flying high, and there's like this whole thing of there's a special ointment that witches had that they would rub on broomsticks and then be all weird witchy ladies, and then they'd fly on the broomsticks.
this is outsider observations. So I cannot tell you if they're actually perceived to be flying or that their like spirits are flying and going off somewhere in search of answers. But either way, this is why we see reindeer drawn sleds and flying through the air with Santa for Christmas. And then in the novel Mushrooms and Mankind, The Impact of Mushrooms on Human Consciousness and Religion, author James Arthur argues that the decorated Christmas tree with gifts wrapped in red and white is a symbol meant to show the symbiotic relationship between Amanita muscaria and the conifer trees. And there are also a few anthropologists that argue the legend of Santa evolved from a shaman predating the stories of St. Nicholas. It is also proposed that the shamans were given gifts of food for bringing the mushroom to the townsfolk, along with the knowledge, visions, and wisdom their hallucinations would provide. Hence why we may set out milk and cookies for Santa Claus. It is also important to note that these cultures which engage in spiritual practices are contained within the North Pole, the region which Santa Claus is said to live. It is said that through a change in shamanism and the cultural exchange and a drift to other countries, some of these ideas made it to Great Britain, and combined with Germanic and Nordic myths, such as Odin and other gods, who traveled during the night of the winter solstice, were chased by demons in a sleigh pulled by 8-legged horses. It was said that a trail of red and white blood fell from the sleigh, and that horses frothed white foam to the ground, where the amanita mushrooms would appear the following year. So that's basically like the Nordic and Germanic kind of folklore tied into it. So basically, all of these spiritual practices that were done during the winter solstice and all of these folk traditions, and many of them ingesting the Amanita muscaria, all of these seem to be tying into what Christmas is today.
So what I'm hearing is shrooms are the reason for the season?
Shrooms are the reason for the season. That's it.
Hell yeah.
Get high and talk to your ancestors, and also get your reindeer high. I don't know.
Well, I don't have reindeer, but this sounds like a great Christmas plan to me.
But be careful adjusting those mushrooms, because some of the side effects don't seem great. I would be hesitant to take those without training.
Yeah, understandable. I am pro not accidental poisoning.
You want to do our outro? Our outro?
Sure. And I just want to say this is going to be our last episode for a little bit since we're taking a break for Christmas, right?
Yes. Yes.
So we will be back. Yeah.
Sometime in January.
We're recording this way early because we want break for Thanksgiving and all that fun stuff.
Yes, so we plan on taking the last 2 weeks of December off and the first 2 weeks of January just to have time for the holidays. And to be completely honest, we usually don't post the first Sunday of every month anyway. So we are quite literally like doing one episode less than usual by doing this, or like 2 episodes less than usual. So it's not.
We're not going to be here for a little while because holidays and family and craziness and all that stuff. So we'll be back in the new year. Yeah, follow our Instagram and our Blue Sky to keep up with us if we post random shit here and there. But yeah, we'll be back in the new year, and we are barreling down the runway to 1 year of this podcast. So
Indeed. Our 1 year anniversary is coming up in February.
Yeah, that's crazy. I honestly, first off, I didn't see us doing a podcast for very long, much less a whole year. Mm-hmm. But here we are. And consistently.
The consistency is what's really crazy to me.
Yeah. Anyway, that being said, we'll see y'all in the new year. And thank you for listening. If you liked, please rate the podcast and share it with the weird people in your life. Follow us on Instagram at whataboutweird.pod, where we often share pictures related to the episodes. We're also on Blue Sky as What About Weird Pod. If you have any topic suggestions or personal weird stories, please DM us or email us at whataboutweirdpod@gmail.com. And always remember
to ask about the weird.
Bye for now.
And have a happy whatever holiday you celebrate.
Happy holidays. Be safe. Don't burn the house down.